Brain implants. Not something that most people know about. This technology is in its infancy, and so are the ethics surrounding it. I expect the discussion around this topic to grow in the coming decades, as the technology improves. Some of the questions I wish to explore in this video are the following. Are brain implants useful? Should we desire them? Do they have side effects? We start with the positive. The good. One of the main benefits of brain, or neural implants, is that they can improve the quality of life for people with neurological conditions. For example, deep brain stimulation is a surgery to implant a device that sends electrical signals to brain areas responsible for body movement, and has been shown to be effective in treating Parkinson's disease. It has also been used to treat other conditions such as epilepsy and depression, with promising results. In the future, this could be used to cure other brain diseases, and to enhance our cognitive capabilities. It could improve our computation speed, our concentration, our intelligence, and potentially improve our moods by regulating emotions. The limits are endless, in theory. All you have to do is figure out precisely how the brain works, which is a monumental undertaking but doable in the long term, many decades or even centuries from now. Some aspects could be easier to unravel. For example, treating ADHD with an implant sounds relatively straightforward. Since we already have some understanding of how ADHD works, it is caused by problems with the dopamine system. Now, dopamine is present everywhere in the brain, so if you can somehow increase dopamine levels to a normal level, you're on the right track. This is precisely what modern ADHD medication does. On the flip side, augmenting our intelligence may be a more complex problem. We don't even know what intelligence really is, biologically. Where is it located in the brain? And intelligence itself is the result of many different aspects. You can be intelligent in many different ways. For these reasons, it's a harder problem to make us more intelligent than, say, cure ADHD. Nonetheless, over time, we will find the answers to these questions. The bad. Despite the potential benefits of neural implants, there are also concerns about their safety and efficacy. Brain surgery is inherently risky, with possibility of infection, bleeding, and other complications. The long-term effects are unknown. Would you be willing to accept an implant that made you the smartest person on earth if there was a 50% chance of developing a tumor 10 years later? I certainly wouldn't. In fact, implants used for Parkinson's disease already have unintended consequences, including personality changes and depression. Also, the research with regards to neural implants involve operating on brains. First animals like monkeys, and later humans. There are already reports saying that monkeys have been tortured during this research, and we're only at the beginning of this whole thing. At the end, these are transition states, which is why I labeled them as bad rather than ugly. Technology will improve and the risks will go down as time goes on. Eventually, we'll be able to manufacture these devices so they are non-invasive, and carry a negligible risk of short or long-term effects. I'm talking, probably a century or more from now. Humans and animals will have died from these experiments, but maybe it's worth it ultimately. Or is it? The ugly. Finally, there are ethical implications to consider when it comes to neural implants. This includes mind control. Imagine an implant that changes your personality such that you are now devoid of critical thinking. I know a few world leaders who would love for such a tool to exist right now. You might say, oh come on, this is far-fetched. And it is today, but it won't be forever. Personality traits must be stored somewhere in the brain. If you can find where and how exactly they are stored, and find a way to change it with these devices, then you got what you need. The brain is a set of neurons with connections between them, mathematically, a graph. An artificial neural network is also precisely that. Now, researchers of artificial neural networks were able to change certain outputs of the network by adjusting specific parameters. For instance, when prompted with the question where the Eiffel Tower was located, the network returned Paris as the answer as it should. But the researchers were able to modify this so that the network thinks that the Eiffel Tower is in Rome. If you can modify this for artificial networks, you can do it for real ones. How? By modifying the connections between brain neurons. Again, in practice this would be incredibly difficult, but in the far future, it's not unthinkable. When you learn a fact, what really changes in the brain? The answer is, the neurons and connections. Connections aren't broken, but they get weaker or stronger, as can be seen on brain scans. New connections can also form in this way. Insert image from scan. Another concern with neural implants is their potential to exacerbate existing societal inequalities. They will be costly initially, so only wealthy individuals will be able to afford them. If these implants significantly enhance cognitive abilities, the consequences could be severe if only wealthy people have access to them. In a society where individuals with enhanced cognitive abilities can outcompete those without them, such an imbalance in access to cognitive enhancement technologies could worsen existing inequalities. Even in case the implants are not restricted to the rich, a societal gap could form between superhumans and everyone else. Another concern is that there could be societal pressure to get the implant, as not having it could put individuals at a significant disadvantage compared to those who do. If your friends are 10 times smarter than you, what value can you offer in their conversations? This is an example of the societal gap that could form. And if your coworker is 10 at X smarter, you're gonna end up being fired. So far the arguments have mostly been relying on humans being bad actors in some way. The next one takes place in a utopian society. Let's therefore assume that we can implant these devices with zero health risks and that every human is a good person. Nobody is getting mind-controlled or oppressed. Do we then really want implants that enhance our cognitive abilities? Imagine a world where everybody has an implant that makes us 300 IQ superhumans with extra memory and extra computation speed. What would our daily lives look like? First, conversations would be over almost instantly. A 300 IQ person can predict what other people are going to say well in advance. And in combination with the extra computation speed, they'll probably have considered every stance on just about any topic already, so why bother talking about things? Talking, for me, is often fun because you can spread ideas to other people and have them agree, or have them change your view, but there's nothing left to spread in such a world, and no view left to change. Imagine you've had the same conversation with someone 100 times before. The next time you have that conversation, you know all the stances, you know the other person's stance. That's boring. In other words, our opinions will homogenize and get less diverse. Okay, so we won't talk. Let's watch movies. Nope, too slow for my super fast brain. I mean, I can't be bothered to observe very predictable conversations in movies, right? Same thing with video games. Strategy games, for instance, would be too easy since I will already know every strategy after a few seconds of thinking. Look at top-tier chess players. The first 10 or so moves, they play from memorization cause they've already gone through the moves so many times. For superhumans it means you might already know the first 1,000 moves from memory, at which point the game is incredibly boring. The most interesting part of playing a game is discovering how it works, learning the new tricks and strategic aspects. But all of that is reduced by a lot with such high intelligence. In short, many of our current hobbies would die and we'd need new ones. To phrase it differently, a commonality among almost all aspects of intelligence is that it involves pattern recognition. Going from math problems to predicting conversations to reading facial expressions. Patterns are involved. But there are only so many patterns in the world. Us humans are good at recognizing a wide range of patterns. Not all of them. And it takes us time, but we do a pretty good job. If we were to be superhumans, most patterns are trivially recognized, which makes things boring. It's like playing a video game on God mode. Where's the fun if all enemies die in one hit and you're invulnerable? Humans need a challenge that's neither too hard nor too easy, and neural implants disrupt this balance by making every cognitive task easy. On the other hand, we have the opportunity to develop an appreciation for things we previously didn't care about. For instance, if one struggles with mathematics, they could now understand all the intriguing theorems and observations. Similarly, they could find enjoyment in literature or art. The ultimate question is then whether we can find new challenges to stimulate us or not. And if not, whether a superbrain can take peace with a lack of stimulation. The answer to these questions is what will decide the future of neural implants, I think. Takeaways. We've seen arguments in favor, such as helping disease or enhancing our capabilities. And we've seen arguments against, including the potential for repression and a lack of mental stimulation. Finding a balance between these viewpoints will require time and careful consideration. The gradual advancement of technology will likely start with implants for Parkinson's and ADHD, followed by those that increase intelligence by small increments. This is over the span of centuries, probably. At each step we must carefully assess whether or not this technology actually improves our lives, or if it works against us. And we need to think of ways to prevent the technology from leading to oppression or mind control. All in all, there's definitely not an easy answer to give, and I expect many heated debates around this topic in the far future. Lastly, a question: what do you think about this technology?